Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a wonderful day or evening wherever you are. In today's story, OP found out his wife cheated on him after he noticed who used condoms in his trash bin that looked unfamiliar. He then noticed her affair partner was outside in the driveway, so he confronted both the wife and the affair partner, and now his wife is begging for mercy. In today's second story, OP's wife suggested an open marriage and her life was completely wrecked after it. Now let's get into today's stories to find out what happened. I noticed a few things around the house. The couch was closer to the wall. I kept it away from it because it covered the vents otherwise. A water jug was constantly placed a different way in the fridge. We're both lefties. There was a faint smell of cologne, not mine, that I'd noticed on the couch and in the bed. The confirmation came after I emptied the trash bin. Last week, I put a bag in the wrong way, so things were prone to slip to the side. So this week, 2 days ago, when I was getting ready for trash day, 2 used condoms were sitting in the bin. I checked my nightstand and to my surprise, I found the notorious black Trojan Magnum box sitting at the back of a drawer, along with 2 other empty boxes of assorted condoms. I've never bought Magnums in my life. Finally, I left the house to run errands yesterday, and halfway to the first and farthest location, I realized I left my phone at home and decided to head back as I'm useless without shopping lists and reminders. As I reached my driveway, I noticed a Porsche sitting in it. On a hunch, I parked 2 houses down and remotely opened my garage door and closed it as I would any other day. I waited a few seconds and a man of comparable age to my own jumped out from my backyard, shirt in hand, got into his vehicle and sped off. I entered my house to find my wife curled up in her recliner with her face in her hands. I told her that I saw her friend and was going to ask what all was going on. But upon walking towards her, I smelled the dreaded cologne. I spent the night in my car parked in a free parking garage. We haven't spoken since. She seemed happy. I'll reluctantly admit to noticing no change in her behavior aside from being too tired for sex and not being all that interested in cuddling or doing much else in the realm of physical touch. With me at least. We last tried before Valentine's Day this year, but her tiredness began long before that. I want to think I did my best, washed dishes, did my own laundry, helped with hers, took out trash, mopped, swept, spent time with her away from electronics, either reading or watching shows without being on my phone. I won't go on because of redundancy. I'm lost and confused. I'm not a saint, but I don't talk to other females aside from at work or simple hi to a cashier or coworker. I stopped looking at porn long before we got married, among other things, to show her respect. I'd like to know what I did wrong that threw her into the arms of another, but also, I'm probably not in the best place to talk to her yet. Worst comes to worst, we get divorced and I start again or something. That's probably the only scenario. I believe in forgiveness, but I also don't forget. Thank you for reading. Update. I'd like to take a moment and say thank you to the kind souls out here. You hear about it, know someone who goes through it, and you don't think twice until it happens to you. I want to say that I'll be me in no time, but it will take time. For the moment, I am consulting with a lawyer. I'm not wishing to drag this out. The house is a rental. I'll deal with the lease as well. Through friends, I've gotten 2 suitcases worth of clothes out of the house. My electronics are with me and our bank account is just hers with enough money for the week. Streaming passwords have been changed and I found a room with our church pastor. It will be a long road. I'm repeating the phrase, "it's not your fault," as many times in my head as I can. It seems to help. I might move back home or maybe just start somewhere else. I have some marketable skills and certifications, so hopefully that comes in handy. Well, OP, here are my thoughts on the situation. Cheaters usually try to control the narrative by giving their version of the story before yours. You need to anticipate she will and tell all the facts to families and shared friends. You need to drop your atomic bomb first, so to speak, to clarify to everybody once and for all and in no uncertain terms who's the culprit. You did nothing wrong. In long-term relationships, it's normal to have periods when one may feel bored, stuck in a routine, overwhelmed by work or whatever. Mature adults, however, discuss any issue with their partners, see if they're fixable, and then leave the relationship if no viable solution can be found. Cheaters, on the other hand, are people with colossal character flaws. They prefer to have sex and have affairs with other people behind your back. which in turn requires being dishonest, having a ton of lies, manipulation, and exposing your health to STDs. Oh, and let's not forget she was denying you sex, not because she was stressed or whatever, but because she was having sex with another dude. No, OP, you didn't do anything wrong. This is 100% on her. This is entirely on her shoulders, and do not ever take responsibility for the trauma and abuse she inflicted on you. I know it'll be hard, but I believe you can get past this, OP. Now, let's get into today's second story. I was married for 2 years at the time. My wife was a serious TikTok junkie who sent me at least 20 a day. We were both in our early 20s. She started sending ones about open marriages and also some podcasts. We had a few long talks about how we were young and should try it before we were old and had kids. After a few months of pushing and pushing, I gave in and we set up some boundaries. No unprotected sex, nothing in our house, and no overnight stays. And if sex occurred with someone else, no details and no touching each other for 30 days, plus a doctor's visit and being cleared before any intimacy between us. We opened our marriage and she started going on dates on Friday nights. I worked anyway, and I got home normally around 10 p.m. For the first year, it was kind of fun. She went out on a date, and by the time I got home, she was already home or getting home at the same time. She told me what they did on the date, and then she jumped me. They were just dates, no sex or intimacy. During this first year, I myself went on 3 dates, and each one went the exact same way. They found out I was married, and it was not what they were looking for. They told me it was nice meeting me. After 3 dates, I quit. Then one Friday night, she didn't get home until like 3 a.m. She came in and made a joke about being too sore and tired for anything. I saw some hickey marks on her chest and thighs, and I'm not gonna lie, I was hurt and upset by this. On Monday or Tuesday, I don't remember, she tried to initiate with me, and I reminded her of rule number 3. She gave me the, "Are you serious? 30 days in a doctor's visit?" I said, "Yes, deadly serious." This became a pattern for us. She went out with her bad boy on Friday nights, had her fun, then spent the rest of the week trying to get me to change rule number 3. To me, it felt like she had put me on a shelf. I started avoiding her, working more, and being out of the house more, even if I was just out walking. I started becoming a lot more physically active and lost some weight. She was fully in a fog of new relationship energy and didn't notice, and thought I was out doing my own thing. 5 months of being on a shelf, I was not seeing a reason to remain in the marriage. I was selling my happiness so that she could be happy, and I was running out of things to sell. Up to that point, she had not broken any boundaries, and every time, I brought up that she should maybe step back from him. She always said that I was overreacting or blowing it way out of proportion, and that it was just some fun one night a week. Our 4th wedding anniversary day arrived, and I took the day off work to make her dinner and clean the house. She got home from work at 4, hopped in the shower, and got dressed up. Then, she told me she was going to a bar to see a local band and not to wait up. She completely forgot about our anniversary. I was destroyed. I woke up Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. She had never come home. Boundary number 2 was broken. I sent her one simple text. "You have broken our boundary of not sleeping over. I am done." At 11:30, she started calling to tell me she had just closed her eyes for a second and passed out. She said that it was an accident, that she was so sorry, and that it would never happen again. My unwillingness to even talk about it caused her to wake up out of her fog a bit. She ended up coming to my work just before we opened and made a scene in front of the whole staff and the owners. I was finally able to calm her down enough, and she left. I promised that on Sunday we could discuss it. I got home from work Saturday night, and she once again tried to have sex with me, and I again reminded her of rule number 3. She then told me that she would no longer be seeing him and wanted to close the marriage and work on reconnecting with me. It seemed that she had freaked out when she woke up there and saw my texts, and that he had made fun of her, and she realized how much of an asshole he was. She tried every day to be intimate with me and failed badly. At that point, I had no need or want or desire for her. She was a roommate, barely. 30 days went by, and she went to the doctor and got checked out. She was clean of diseases, but was pregnant. Not sure where her mind was with this, but she came home excited and told me we were pregnant. I told her that I hoped they would be happy together. She looked at me confused for a few minutes and then started crying. A few days later, she sent him a text telling him. His response was, "Wow, sucks to be you. You might want to pass it off as your husband's." I filed for divorce soon after. She started doing anything and everything to change my mind about the divorce. Making promises, begging, pleading, offering everything under the sun and asking for a chance to fix us. I was polite and nice about it, but I wasn't having any of it. I was stuck living with her for a while until our lease was up. We fell into a new pattern. She tried to be intimate with me. I turned her down. She got upset. I went for a run. My resentment of her was growing just like her baby bump. 3 weeks ago, she came into my room to talk. She brought home pizza for dinner and started talking about how, with being pregnant, she was super horny all the time, and she tried yet again to have sex with me. I, at that point, was running out of politeness. I told her, "Sorry, I'm not into fat chicks. Maybe hit Tinder. I'm sure someone on there would be down for it." She left my room crying. Also, we had our first divorce hearing, and the judge slapped 6 weeks of marriage counseling on us, court-ordered. We went to 2 sessions, kind of a meet and greet thing, talking to us separately to get our stories, I guess. I just wanted it to be over so we could move on with our lives. Last Sunday was my birthday. On the Friday before it, she asked me to spend my birthday with her to celebrate it. I declined her invitation. She kept pushing the subject, and I snapped. I told her that I didn't want to waste special occasions on her anymore. The last one was our 4th anniversary, in which she went out to get knocked up by some pothead loser. I left her crying in the kitchen, headed to work, and told her I would see her on Monday for our court-ordered waste of time. Monday morning, I was at marriage counseling. She never showed. I called her. Nothing. I called her friends. Nothing. I called her parents, and I found out she got arrested Sunday morning for DUI and reckless endangerment and that they were on the way. I offered our house for them to stay at. I had a couch at a friend's house. My lawyer went to the judge and expedited things. My divorce finalized this past Friday. Yesterday, I helped them pack some of her stuff, and today I'm going to help them load a U-Haul they rented. She gets released tomorrow, and they're taking her back home with them. She wants to see me, but I feel that will just be worse for the both of us. We both need to move on. Wow, OP. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Open relationships typically don't work. Open marriages in particular. She wanted to have her fun and have you for stability and the backup plan. What perplexes me is the audacity of her expecting you to care for a child that's not biologically yours, as if that detail shouldn't matter, and that your marriage should just go back to how things were before, as if her actions had no impact or would have no consequences. Don't sign the birth certificate until DNA conclusively marks you as the parent. You should have started talking about a divorce the moment open marriage was discussed. If you're not into that, it's just sentencing the marriage to a slow death sentence. Also, in general, wives will have many more options in an open marriage. It's clear she doesn't love you, but she was afraid of being alone. It's time for you to move on to bigger and better things. I wish you luck, OP. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care. On the 1st of December, I got the news I was dreading. All of the tests have confirmed the diagnosis. I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So basically this will be my last holiday season. I am awk with what is going to come. I am at peace with that. I have had a life well lived. All of my loved ones will be taken care of. I am naturally a private person, so my wayward wife, Jane, is unaware of my tests. I did not want to worry her until I had answers, so I headed home early to have the talk. This is not something I wanted to do over the phone or by text. Well, as you can guess, since I am here, my life changed more than once that afternoon. When I arrived at the house, I noticed the car of one of my business partners in the drive. There was no mistaking it. Flashy, expensive, with a personalized license tag. To say this is out of the ordinary is an understatement. I pull up our home camera system on my phone and notice it is in privacy mode, not recording. So I let it be and drove off to my farm property. Now our camera system is for safety and I never look at it unless there is a concern. With that said, I also love to watch for wildlife on the outside cameras. I also find it oddly satisfying to watch storms come through. So for my own enjoyment, years ago I configured a second video recorder to archive the cameras to local storage. That storage is not accessible via my phone. So when I was at the farm, I opened up my computer and looked at the other server to confirm what my gut was telling me. And sure enough, there they were, snuggling in the living room, drinking wine, dancing, then going up to the bedroom suite. Apparently they left the doors open because the microphone recorded their activities after they left the camera view. With my limited time left, I wanted answers, but I didn't want the drama of a confrontation and divorce. Call me what you will, but all of my devotion and love for her left me that afternoon. I have all of the emotions that are to be expected. I know that I am not to blame. I have been a loyal, romantic, and attuned partner. I am now thinking about myself. I know what is important to me, so I called my lawyer and we reviewed my will and our prenup. I told him what was going on. We worked on an understanding of how long and to what extent this affair has been going on. What has been found is disturbing, and I either clearly did not know the woman I shared 2+ decades of life with, or something in her changed. At this time, I am not going to say anything to my kids. Wayward wife, and I never had children, or wayward wife. I am going to put on a stiff upper lip and get through the holidays. Give the kids and grandkids one last holiday memory with me involved. I will be the doting father and grandfather and then try to play the doting husband role. Some background for some of the obvious questions. AP is a widower and is not remarried. He is a business partner but not a friend. I do not invest with friends. I never married my twins' mother, male and female. It was her choice, and I completely agree with her that at that time she made the correct decision. My kid's mother, Sarah, married a very wonderful man, Steve, when the kids were 7. Sarah and Steve never had kids of their own. I got my head out of my ass when the kids were 3. I have been very involved with them before that, but that is when I started my road to be the father I wanted to be. Sarah and I co-parented well together, and I would call Steve a friend. Sarah, Steve, and I are in our 60s. Jane is almost 60. AP is in his 50s. Jane and I are both in our first marriage. We were in our 30s when we married. Update. First, I want to thank you all for all your support. It really has helped. I have read all of your comments and has given me a lot to think about. I'm going to give some general information to help clarify my situation. Sarah and I were very young when we had twins. They were a surprise but always wanted. So the twins are in their 40s and the grandkids are all teens and older. Christmas is a week-long affair every year. We spend Christmas through New Year on the farm. We go cut down a tree after everyone arrives. We decorate, cook, play, and celebrate as a family. Sarah and Steve have been a part of this tradition since I bought the farm. I remain steadfast in not telling anyone until after the new year. If I told Sarah, she would not be able to keep it in. I don't want to place Steve in a position to lie to his wife. I want the kids and grandkids to enjoy the week. We will have plenty of time to cry and prepare in a few weeks. Jane's presence this week will just be a small detail in the long run. Really, I don't care about her anywhere near the rest of the family. The finances are very interesting. Jane and I met and were married after we both were very established in our job and wealth. She had a good job with a great pension. She also had 2 inheritances that were in a trust. We agreed early on that we were both comfortable and we would not disclose to each other our entire worth by her insistence. We also have a prenup where any property and trust that predate the marriage and any income from those resources are not considered marital property. Again, on her insistence. Now I have provided both properties, housing with utilities. I purchased the travel, food, and fuel. Basically, I support her 100%. Her income and wealth are spent by her only. She purchased her car, clothes, personal travel, and cosmetic surgery. She is a very beautiful woman on the outside but has shown she is very ugly inside. A few days after I got my diagnosis, I announced my retirement from the nonprofit. Now knowing what I know, I noticed Jane was a bit uncomfortable. I can guess why. I will be around more often. So tomorrow is my last day of work. Now I will be focusing on spending time with the family. I gave the camera server info to my lawyer and gave him access from his office. So I don't know if they had activities again, but I would assume yes. Again, I don't care at this point. I know who I am and what is my worth, and AP is a big step down. As flashy as AP is, I am low-key. I drive a 15-year-old pickup truck. I like jeans and t-shirts and coveralls in the winter. I know for a fact that AP does not have anywhere near the wealth that Jane thinks he does. How? Since the trust has invested in his business, I get quarterly financials. I don't tell anyone how much I have, that is between my accountants and me. But let's just say that the trust has been growing for 30 years. I live a modest life, and there is enough there for my great-great-grandchildren to enjoy the farm and have their education paid for. Once Jane knows what she lost, that will be her reckoning. I just won't see it. December really got busy. We did our normal social rounds these last weekends. AP was at one of the parties. It was hard to not keep an eye on Jane and him. I don't think I was caught. With being so busy and wrapping up everything at the job, I have had an easier time keeping it together. Jane has not expressed anything that would lead me to conclude that she knows I know. I am not proud of this, but I still sleep in the same bed. I have been selfish with her as of late. I feel like I am using her, but she has apparently been using me for at least the better part of this year. I am not as honorable as many of you have made me out to be. I hate this small amount of deceit. So don't worry about Jane getting everything, because she will not. The trust is in great hands. I have detailed instructions on how it is to be managed. Thanks to the comments, I have made plans in case my health turns for the worse sooner than I want, or if I pass unexpectedly. I have also made plans to have in-home care when it is needed. Jane will not be my caregiver. If I become incapacitated, the lawyer will tell Sarah, Steve, and the kids. Jane will be blocked from me. All important papers, valuables, and whatnot have been moved to a safe location. Finally, I have also started letters to each family member and Jane. Those have been harder than I thought. So I wanted to update you all before all of the festivities start. I might check in during holiday week, but if I don't, it is planned and expected. Hey OP, I hope you have a fantastic holiday season with your family. Enjoy your time and make the most of every moment, both for yourself and for their lasting memory of you. If I were you, I'd pre-record a video that I would ask to get played during the funeral. In it, start by thanking everyone for attending, with the exception of Jane. I would then say something along the lines of, I left this world unloved by my own wife, and I ask that if she is in attendance that she does not attend my celebration of life following this video. I wish you all the best OP. Now let's get into today's second story. Hi there. I'm 40 years old. My wife is 35, and we've been married for about a decade. She and I started off with an amazing relationship. We waited to get married because she miscarried in a previous relationship. Eventually, I told her I wanted to get married, even if she couldn't have a child. We did, and 2 years later we welcomed our daughter. Things seemed great, but the tension was there at first. Having a kid is exhausting, as you probably know. When our daughter grew up, she claimed that I wasn't giving her as much attention. I explained that she was a new mom and the breadwinner, and I had to make sure that everyone was taken care of. I was trying my best, but I could feel the resentment getting to her for a bit. For a few years, we worked it out. Eventually, our daughter grew up, and it got easier to have a relationship. Still, I felt like there was some strange animosity that came with this, even though I did my best to fix this and made accommodations for her as well. While we did try to make things better, there was still some tension there. Even though we did get past the tension before, something still felt off. When our daughter started school, my wife went back to work. I told her that she didn't need to do that, but she insisted that she wanted to for another reason. I'd been handling the bills, but I decided she was just being nice about it, so I brushed it off. She spent less time at home, which I found to be a bit weird. Our daughter was a little older, and I stepped up to be the one to take care of her. She would get home late sometimes because she told me she had to put a lot more time into the jobs that she missed so much. I found it weird, but I didn't try to. One night, we had a big fight over my daughter's grades. She accused me of not being there since I spent a lot of time at my own job. I called her out, but she called me narcissistic, selfish, and only caring about myself. I was shocked because she didn't seem to actively put effort into the relationship either. I was so confused. She became cold and a lot more distant. She was now more distant than before. I tried to make things better for both of us. I decided, hey, let me go to her workplace to surprise her. When I got there, she was gone. I called her to ask where she is. She told me about a restaurant nearby. I got there, but she was not there. She mentioned she changed her mind, and she went somewhere else. I asked where she and I wanted to meet up, but she said she couldn't say. She was not sure yet. At this point, I thought it was a bit strange. I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt, though. She told me she's going to a work conference. I asked where I could bring my daughter. She hesitated, saying she was not sure yet. Now at this point, I didn't know what to believe, and my gut feeling said something otherwise. I decided to check her work email since it was open, and I found the hotel. I put a tracker on her luggage, only to find out she didn't go to that hotel, but instead to another nearby. Why in the world would she lie about where she was going, and what hotel was she really at? Curious, I decided to follow her. I got to that hotel and I figure out where she is from the tracking device that I used. When I got up there, I heard sounds of moans and the like. I suddenly saw that the door is left open slightly, and that's when I found it. She was with another man. Tears of sadness and rage fell down my face, but I couldn't let her know just yet. I decided to wait for them to walk out. They do, and I walked down the hall. I told her that I know everything, that she'd been cheating on me with another man. She tried to lie, but I pulled out my phone, which records their voices. I asked her plainly what really happened. She then goes off to say that I'm not attentive to her needs, and that she wanted a divorce anyways. I got so angry. I told her that she shouldn't come home to see our daughter again. She confessed that this is a coworker, and that she'd been talking for a bit. She said that she'd been going out with him because he paid for her meals. She claimed that she only kissed him, but the sounds were there. I was furious. She had a child with me. She claimed that I was the only one for her. How could she do this to me? Afterward, I left, but not without uploading that footage of her confession to the cloud. I told her boss about it, that she cheated on me, broke a family apart, and put her own needs before her daughter's. They fired her. I kicked her out of the house. Everyone knows that she's a cheater, so I've made sure and have it known in everything possible. Since then, I don't know where she is, but I've been able to help my daughter recover. I stepped up, divorced her, and it's been 2 years. I've kept the details private from my daughter since she doesn't need to know. But since then, I've raised her, and I've done my best to provide the best life that I can, despite what her cheating mom did to me. Wow, OP, that's terrible. You had a kid too. I can't believe that people would throw away a relationship like that. Relationships are about trust, and she broke that all because of a tough time and being unable to salvage that bond. I hope that the worst continues to happen to her, and that you and your daughter are able to move past this as well. I also think your daughter needs to know about the affair and what happened. She definitely deserves to know. I wish you all the best, OP. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. My wife, 38, and I, 47, were together for roughly about 17 years. About 14 of them were spent with us married. When we first met, I thought she was older than she was. It was just the mature aura she gave off. She thought I was younger, which at the time did make me feel pretty good. After we decided that the age difference didn't matter, we went all in on the relationship. I was still a little hesitant about the age difference, but then I met her family. Her family was very big, bigger than mine. I'd always wished I had grown up in a close, tight-knit family. I'm the first to admit that her family, who welcomed me with open arms, is a huge factor in my continuing the relationship. She seemed just as crazy about her family as well. I took that as a good sign. A possible wife who thinks family is everything is a plus. The two of us went on to have a family of our own. 2 boys ages 8 and 11. During our marriage, things were good. We got along great, made memories with each other and our kids, and just enjoyed life. Anytime there were issues, we ended up working through them and persevering. I put my entire being in this relationship. Like I had hobbies as any married guy did. Hunting, fishing, and golfing were all things I loved, but after our kids came, I knew the focus had to be on our sons. Our wife didn't get the memo because she didn't hold herself to the same standards. My wife seemed focused on our marriage and family at first, but slowly she started to become a very shallow and self-centered person. She didn't put the kids first or even consider me. I tried my best to accept these behavior changes and keep putting the work into our marriage. It all came crashing down on Memorial Day of all days. I was getting the boys ready for the holiday party when I heard my wife's muffled voice from the bathroom talking to someone. My curiosity got the best of me and I ended up standing there listening. I couldn't hear who was on the other end of the phone, but I heard her. She was telling whoever she was on the phone with that she loved them, couldn't wait to be with them, and every day she spent with her husband, me, took a little part of her soul. So I waited for her to come out of the bathroom. When she realized I had heard what she said on the phone, she was in shock. My wife didn't say anything at first. I asked if she was cheating and she stuttered, trying to come up with some lame excuse. I told her to save it and walked out because I had a party to get to. My boys having a good holiday is what was my main focus. That was D-Day for me, and it's safe to say that the holiday is going to be sullied for me shortly. I'll never let my boys know because I want them to enjoy the holiday and spend time with family. The reason I still attended with my kids was to keep up appearances. It was very hard to keep a smile on my face, but again I did it for the boys. They will always be who I put first in all of this. My wife didn't go with us. She decided to go straight to the AP for comfort, ironically enough. When she finally came home from her AP, I asked her what happened. According to my soon-to-be ex-wife, I lacked passion and didn't show her any attention. I repulsed her, as she lovingly pointed out to me. She managed to say all of this while trying to butter me up with compliments about being a trusting husband, great provider, and father. I just was a terrible lover. However, she wanted to stay married and keep living in the marital home while remaining with her AP. I was shocked by that. My wife wanted her cake and to eat it too. She gets the stability of remaining with me and the apparent passion with this jerk she cheated on me with. Speaking of the AP, I knew the guy. He had been over to my house and I'd even hung out with him. The guy knew everything that was going on. I was busy working and coaching sports teams for our sons while she was screwing around with him behind my back. After the shock wore off, I realized I had to file for divorce. It should be done by the end of the year, which is getting closer and closer by the minute. She was against it and tried to convince me we could stay married. If not for us, then because of the boys. They deserve to be raised in a two-parent household. I'm not gonna lie, I nearly burst out laughing when she said this. Was I tempted to do it for a moment, but then I realized it wasn't fair to my boys to do that. I didn't want to stay in a terrible relationship just for their sake. This wasn't something I wanted to emulate for them. If they ever, God forbid, found themselves in this position, then I would want them to retain some dignity and do what was best for them and their family. Besides, kids pick up on more things than we realize. I've learned this since my boy started therapy to deal with the situation. I'm also in therapy before you ask, so don't worry. My mental health is also being worked on. When news of the affair reached our friends and family, it didn't go the way she expected. Her own family didn't rally around her. Instead, they rallied around me, which I cannot begin to say was a huge help in the healing process because I fear I might lose my in-laws in the divorce process. The funny thing is her boyfriend isn't allowed anywhere at her parents' house or any family functions, while my boys and I are more than welcome. She refuses to attend without the AP, so she and her family have no contact. I talk more to her mother than she does now. They used to talk 2 times a day, but now the contact is non-existent. For the holidays this year, my boys and I were gladly invited. I'm gonna go, just not for the sake of my boys, but also because I enjoy being around the family. Recently, it seems that even our acquaintances are beginning to see through my wife's crap. There was a youth night at the high school football game that I attended with my boys. They get to go out on the field at halftime and get introduced to the team. She showed up there, but I already had a warning because she had texted me earlier that day. When she shows up, she marches over to her boys and starts taking pictures with them. I swear the moment she was done with the pictures, she left because her AP was performing at some dive bar. Is he any good? I have no idea, and nor do I want to know either. After my wife left, I had 4 different sets of parents come up to me and mention something about how she stayed just long enough to get her pictures for social media. It was hard not to burst out laughing. Let me tell you, it felt really good that people could see through her crap and that she's only playing up the mom of the year stuff for Instagram, Facebook, or whatever other social media she's on. We'll always have to remain in some contact because of our boys. One is still in the single digits, mind you. I'm just glad other people can see who she is, and when it comes down to it, she is going to put herself first and not me or the boys. In the meantime, I'll keep taking care of my boys and myself. I've started going back to the gym, picked up some of my old hobbies again, and reconnected with old friends. I can safely say I've never been happier. OP, let me tell you that you are on the right track. The most important thing you're doing is taking care of yourself, because if you aren't taking care of them, you can't help your boys. They need a father who is mentally there and healthy, because their mother is too selfish to be an option for them right now. Or at all, since it's her fault this situation is even happening in the first place. The fact that her family was willing to realize that their daughter did wrong is huge. So often the family of the cheater will end up backing them and accepting the AP. It's nice to see that for once this was not the case. You truly did handle this well, even though it might have seemed tempting to not divorce and just keep the status quo. You didn't. Once the fog from the affair wears off, your wife might try to warm her way back in. Keep remaining as strong as you have been for the sake of yourself and your boys. Now let's move on to our next story for today. My wife, 28, and I, 35, got together about 8 years ago. We married 4 years into the relationship, and I thought everything was great between us. Our love life was great, and we were always being romantic. The two of us frequently went on dates and never neglected that part of our lives. Sometimes married people can fall into a slump, but I swear that wasn't us. Sure, we had the rare fight, but they were over within a few hours. We'd make up so fast that it was like we almost hadn't fought in the first place. When I described her to people, I would say she was the love of my life, because I truly believed that she was. She was everything I ever wanted in a partner. Naturally, I thought she felt the same way, because why wouldn't I? My wife never gave me any indication that there was a problem in our relationship. People tend to say that they saw signs or cracks along the way, but I swear I saw nothing. Everything did seem almost perfect. After my wife joined a volleyball club in February, things started to change. I didn't bat an eyelash at first. She had played it in high school and wanted to pick it up again. Twice a week for 3 hours, she'd go down to the center to practice. During that time, I missed her, but if she wanted to do this, then I was more than happy to support her. She always supported me in my hobbies, so there was no reason why I wouldn't do the same. I think the moment I realized something was wrong was when she began to hide her smartphone from me. She never did that before. We never had secrets from each other and had no problem with the other using each other's phones. So when she went to the bathroom in the evening and forgot to take it with her, I checked the phone. What I found was a punch in the gut. In a conversation with a teammate, I found many messages. When I confronted her, she grabbed the phone and deleted the text. My wife cried that it meant nothing. They had gone for several walks over the months and kept spending time together, but it was nothing. He did try to kiss her once, but she rebuffed him. They were just friends, but she realized that she had done wrong by seemingly encouraging the relationship with him. My wife begged me for a chance and to trust that nothing happened. Silly me was still deep in the fog, so I agreed to forgive her that night. Even though I agreed to forgive her, it was difficult. I constantly asked my wife where she was, what she was doing, and who she was with. I even began to track her Google data, where I found a couple of 15-minute stops near a tire store. For some time, she had been stopping there after work and then driving home. I started to realize something was up after she was an hour late for an appointment. So I did the only thing I could think of. I followed her one day. What I found was her in his car, and the second she saw me, she jumped out of the car. She said that the only reason she met with the guy was to tell him to leave it alone. This made no sense to me. Why would you go through all that effort to meet him in public? You could tell him that over text or phone call. Naturally, I thought she was full of crap, so I called the guy and confronted him. It was there I learned that this guy, who still lived with his parents, mind you, had been meeting with my wife for weeks. They claimed it was nothing sexual. All they would do is meet at the tire shop, talk, and then go their separate ways. Once again, she tried to claim that it was a mistake and she loved it. It means nothing is her favorite thing to say. My wife has said she will do whatever it takes to repair our relationship, but if this was the case, then why is she still in volleyball where she continues to see this guy multiple times a week? It was at that point I started to come out of the fog. Once I began to confront her, the truth came out. The two of them did have sex, and not only that, they did it right in the parking lot. For weeks she had been lying to my face and sleeping with this guy almost every day. Truly, I had been naive to think that nothing intimate was going on between them. Of course, she would try to lie and say it was not physical. If I knew it was physical from the beginning, I never would have even thought of giving her another chance, because that is just a line you don't cross in my book. I think realizing that she sees him every day and continues to lie to my face is what helped me realize I needed to start the divorce process. This caught her off guard because she didn't think I'd have the guts to push for a divorce and finally leave her. Tears came, but I remained strong. My wife's tears weren't going to have any sway this time. She was going to have to face the consequences for what she had done to not just me but also used as a whole. No longer could she have the best of both worlds. Once I filed for divorce, she ended up moving out of our shared property and into errand apartments for the most part. Her AP is an unemployed driver who still lives with his parents who will not allow her to live there, so she had no choice but to seek temporary housing arrangements. She is a teacher, so her income isn't the greatest. I don't know what she will do when she runs out of money to afford these temporary housing arrangements. However, now that we are close to a divorce, I realize that it is not my problem. Maybe she'll manage to land on her feet, or maybe she won't. I just need to realize it's something I do not have to or need to worry about. Let her AP worry about it since he's so amazing. A lot of her things are still in our shared home. Even now she'll try to say that there is no life without you and she wants to get back together. Months ago this would have swayed me, but now I just gray rock. Her words do little to sway me. I see how frustrated she gets when I don't have a reaction, and honestly it feels good. I've managed to pick up the pieces and have filled my life with friends, sports, and hobbies, and am even considering furthering my education. Was it easy to pick up the pieces of my life after learning of my wife's affair? No, but I remain steadfast and determined to put myself first. Looking back, I still can't see many signs or pinpoint where it went wrong. I guess she was just good at hiding it. Either way, it doesn't matter because our relationship is done. She can remain with her unemployed AP. Maybe his parents will finally take pity on her and let her stay. If they don't, then I can honestly say it's not my problem if she can't find a place to stay. She lost my sympathy when she decided to go outside our relationship and cheat on me. The moment she did that, she was undeserving of anything from me other than anger and resentment. I first want to say well done to how you stuck to your guns and managed to push forward despite all the pain you were feeling. You deserve a woman who loves you and is committed to a relationship with you. Wasting time on a selfish woman like that is going to do nothing but bring you down. My one piece of advice is to start packing up all her possessions. Tell her she has so long to pick them up or you will dispose of them. It may sound harsh, but all these items of her are going to be nothing more than a reminder of her. Also remember that the best revenge is living your best life. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also comment below with your thoughts on what happened. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me.